The Reformed Gamers is brought to you 100% independent and ad-free thanks to our dear patrons over on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. To get yourself sweet perks such as early access to all of our episodes, special episodes of the podcast, and more, head over to patreon.com/thereformedgamers today and consider lending support to the show. Without further ado, let's hop into the show. Welcome, dear listeners, to this giant milestone of an episode 150 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, and really anything else that we can think of. I'm your host, Logan.
And I am his co-host, Adam.
Dude, we made it. We made it to 150 episodes. Man.
We're only halfway to our goal of 300.
Yeah, we're only... Wait, we set a goal? When did we set a goal?
I'm just
I was like, man, once we hit 150, what are we going to do with the show? I guess we can just end it. But now that we're here, I'm like, no.
We used to, when I was a kid, I'd go to the gym and my dad and them would play basketball and they'd play to 200. And it was halftime when they got to 100. So it's like, hey, we got to 150, but we're playing to 300 or more. So we're just at halftime.
Yeah, man.
Sports references. Sports.
I get some. I don't get all.
You're like, what's halftime? Is that like an inning in baseball?
I was like, what is that? See, baseball stuff I do get. It was funny. I was at one of my students' football games earlier today, and one of my students was sitting there and talking to me, and he was asking me all these sports questions, and I'm like, bro, you've been in the youth group for at least a year. You know I don't really follow sports all that much. You want to talk to my wife about all this, not me. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he just kept asking me questions. I was like, all right, I'll pretend I know what I'm talking about.
He's trying to teach you, man.
I think he was more trying to just start a conversation. Cause I feel like, you know how it is, like some people just kind of have that thing where they can't sit in the quiet for long because it makes them uneasy. I mean, I get it because I used to be that way, but I think that's how the student was. He was like, who's your favorite NFL team? I'm like, the one with the Tigers on it? I don't know, man. The Dolphins, are they still around?
Yep.
But no. For those of you wondering, I'm more of a college football fan. My wife's gotten me into that, so I'm all about the Longhorns, and because of where I'm located at Texas Tech, and I'll watch TCU from time to time when they're playing well.
I always I liked TCU before I went to seminary. Then all of our TCU friends annoyed me too much. So now I actually like it more when they lose. It's weird how that stuff happens.
It's kind of flipped on it, huh?
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I get that. It's always weird how like you want to get into something and you're getting into it, but somehow the fans of that particular thing wind up turning you off from it more than anything else. And it's like,
no doubt.
Like what just happened? What just happened? I wanted to like Pokemon, but all the fans are crazy. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, this is a show about video games and biblical theology, so we're going to get into some video games. And man, dear listeners, I'm just going to be honest with you. We're gonna have some time reminiscing a little bit later on the show. We've been asking you guys for your favorite memories and episodes over the past couple weeks, and so we've got a list of those compiled as best as we can, and we're going to try and get through as many as we can, if not all of them, in this episode. And you guys probably already noticed this is going to be a little bit of a beefier episode. I don't know that for sure, but we'll find out. So I'm just warning you, heads up, just in case. Also, things that are just in case, things that you need to know about. A little bit of a housekeeping, if you will, before we get into the show. New YouTube content, as always, is going up, trying to keep that as consistent as possible. We just finished the Super Metroid series over there, so there's 10 episodes of Super Metroid for you to walk through or watch and check out. That was my first time playing through the game, beating it. Maybe not my first time playing the game, period, but my first time playing through the game through to completion. So there's a lot of cool firsts in there. Try to get some fun little edits in there in the last 2 episodes. So definitely check it out. YouTube.com/thereformedgamers.
Yeah, so I watched the last episode. I've jumped into some of the episodes here and there, and I like that you were going all girlfriend reviews, trying to add different clips and stuff like that.
You like that?
I was like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here.
Yep.
That was good.
Yep. I'm just saying, girlfriend reviews. There's early Reco, man. It's some good inspiration.
So good.
That channel.
It's good.
That channel. Oh,
it's so really just good because they use The Office all the time.
That's really it.
They quote The Office clips more than any other show, and I'm like, okay, you're speaking my language.
Yep. I feel like we would get along. We should try and get them on the show. I'll write that down. But yeah, so there's that on there. And also I built a PC.
What?
In a game called PC Building Simulator.
I was about to say. I didn't see that in the notes, and I was about to lose my mind.
By the time this episode comes out, everyone will have already known that the jig is up. But for those of you that don't follow us on YouTube, yeah, just go and enjoy it. The game is hilarious. It's so good. The moment I saw it in the eShop, I was like, this is a YouTube video waiting to happen right here. And hopefully it'll actually
VR.
You know?
Job simulator.
I didn't even think to look if it was on the PlayStation Store. I know what I'm doing after we record this. I'm going to go see if that's in VR because that would be sick. It's a cool game. I'm not going to lie. I enjoy it. I hope it actually teaches me how to actually build a PC so that when I'm like 60 and I finally get around to building a PC, I know what I'm doing.
That's usually how video games work. You know, I've played sports video games my whole life, so I'm an amazing basketball player.
Yeah, man.
I've played Call of Duty games, so I know what war's like.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other. I'm good with Beat Saber lightsabers, so I'm basically a Jedi.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
We've played Persona, so we know what it's like to be a high school teenager again, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so I feel like when I'm playing Fire Emblem.
Oh, dude. Yeah, we'll get into that here in a second. Let's just jump into it. Like I said, youtube.com/TheReformed Gamers. Go check out all the content. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. By the way, thank you guys for those of you that have subscribed and pushed us past the 300 subscriber mark. Awesome. Love you guys. Thank you so much for that. But let's get into the show like we always do with a little bit of what have we been playing. Adam, man, let's go, man. What have you been digging into?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of change. I've probably got some different thoughts with it, but yeah, as I mentioned, I've been playing some more Fire Emblem 3. I'm about 9 hours in now. And me and Micah were talking about it last night as we were doing the fantasy football draft for TRG. It is basically... It's Fire Emblem Persona. Now the combat, of course, is different, but it's still very much, it's turn-based strategy, just a different style of turn-based strategy. But a lot of the systems outside of the combat, like the gameplay, is very Persona-esque. You got to choose how you're going to spend your day, who you're going to talk to. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more options probably in Fire Emblem to some degree. Maybe not if you really think about Persona. But in regards to like recruiting and how you want to teach and what you want to teach, and do you want to teach yourself? Do you want to build up other people's stats? There's a lot of kind of, they don't call it day managing, but it's kind of like you're managing your day like you do in Persona. Mm-hmm. But they have that aspect of Fire Emblem. So it's really reminding me a lot of that. And there's probably at this point of my 9 hours that I've played, it feels like 6 of the hours have been just running around the monastery. You know,
yeah, dude.
The battles do take time. Mm-hmm. You're probably spending a good 30, 45, at least I am, maybe 30 minutes in a battle, depending on which one. Some of the earlier ones weren't as long, but so if you're in a battle scenario and like as a part of a chapter, that part is a little bit longer, but a lot of it's run around making sure I'm not missing people that I'm supposed to be talking to. Yep. I thought I was going to try to recruit some people, like my girl Mercedes, like she's a boss with some magic, but I don't think I'm going to have my stats good enough to ever recruit her. So I'm like, bummer, but yeah, it's definitely been a good time. Where are you at with Three Houses?
So I checked my clock today. I have broken 33 hours in on this game since we last recorded, because I was like, I'm just not gonna, because I went hard and beat the OG Doom, beat Super Metroid, and I was like, hey, now I can focus on Fire Emblem and just go in on it. And so I'm 33 hours into the game. I'm on chapter, I think 15 with the Golden Deer. And man, it's funny, like what you said about running around the monastery. Yeah, probably like 5 to 6 hours of my 33-hour playthrough has been running around the monastery, checking on my plants, fishing, equipping all my... See, I got my fishing game too. You know what I'm saying? You got yours, I got mine. No. Mine's probably way easier, way more simplified. But going to the marketplace and upgrading my gear, managing battalions and all that stuff that I don't even really use, but I've got all this money, I might as well use it. And then just doing side quests and going to the different areas around the monastery to do cooking, eating meals with people, doing the choir thing, choir practice, getting my singing in.
You gotta get to choir practice. You can't miss
gotta
it.
get in there. You can't. That's how you. I don't know what joke I was going to throw in there, but that's how you do something. But yeah, so it's just and like it's crazy because I wasn't expecting the monastery to have this much stuff to do in it, but there's a lot, and you can go around and pick up all these items and stuff, and go to different characters. Yeah. Like, hey, did you lose this? Did you lose this? And like,
I'm gonna have to look up a guide for that because there's like all of these. Like you could. I'm just gonna. I've got all these lost items. I'm gonna have the internet tell me where they go.
Yeah, I straight up, I straight up would just go up to someone and go through my entire list of like 25 items. Like, did you have this? No, okay. But like. So it was so dumb.
I don't know what's more time consuming, doing it that way or like actually consulting a guide on the internet.
It's definitely doing it the wrong way, which is what I did. But yeah, so doing that,
definitely not the way that the game developers intended it to be.
No, but I did it anyway. So there you go, developers, dear developers. So let me ask you this, man, because this is the weirdest part about this game that honestly makes me super uncomfortable. Okay. Have you taken anybody out to tea? Have you done any tea times with anybody?
Man, we've got some tea parties going on left and right.
Oh my gosh,
we're talking about romance. We're talking about their favorite color. We're talking about whatever pops up. Sometimes it's been dudes. It's weird. It's like, it's their birthday. Do you want to take them out to tea? I'm like, my options are take them out to tea or to give them flowers. I don't like either option.
That's why you just do
but
nothing.
I know they want me to build up some rapport with these people, so I'll buy them some flowers, and they always seem to like it.
Oh man, it makes me feel weird.
My question is, where is the blacksmith? Like, I can't access it because I can't find this stinking thing.
He's down there by the marketplace with everybody else near the fishing area.
It doesn't ever load up. I don't know. Maybe do you unlock it at a certain area?
Yeah. What chapter are you on?
Maybe I'm not far enough. I'm only at like chapter 5.
Oh yeah, I think no. You should have it by now.
I don't know. I just got to keep exploring because usually it does that little cutscene where it kind of unlocks it.
Yeah.
But that's the one place. So before I go in the battle, they're like, "You can't go there. You haven't unlocked it yet." I'm like, "What the heck, man?"
That's weird. Yeah, I remember, but anyway, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like this is really good. I don't want to say it's my favorite Fire Emblem just yet because Path of Radiance on the GameCube was really good, and then plus the first Fire Emblem I played was the GBA one that finally came over here to the States back in years ago. But this one is shaping up to be just one of the best. It's
easily my favorite Fire Emblem I've ever played.
Is it the only one you've played?
It's the only one I've ever played. So it's crushing the competition.
That's awesome, man. I love it. But yeah, I'm really, really digging the game. It's just there's some stuff with the story that just it gets bonkers. Yeah. But you'll see it when you get there.
That's good. Yeah, but I've been playing some other stuff. Still been playing Marvel Alliance. I finally beat Voltron. Right?
Oh yeah, I know where you're at.
Which was a really tough fight. That was like because your stupid helpers just die.
Yeah,
like all my other guys, they die. So I'm running around with Iron Man because he's a beast. Mm-hmm. And then it's cool when Ant-Man shows up. That was a cool scene. So now I'm at Xavier's the X-Men area or whatever. So I'm slow rolling it. Again, when you're balancing Fire Emblem, Marvel Alliance, you can only do so much. But this game it's great, man.
It's good, isn't it?
I am loving it. It is
good, man.
It's just fun. Hannah even played with me. I begged her one night to play it with me. And she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just hit these 2 buttons. She was rocking some the Wasp, and she tried Gamora maybe for a while.
Okay.
So I was teaching. It was a good time. She appeased me for a little while, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm done." I said, "Fair enough." Well, we tried to beat Voltron, and then when he killed us, she's like, "We can be done." I said, "Okay." So
she's like, "This guy can't beat me if I don't play the game."
Truth.
Oh,
so
man.
Playing that more, but the game that I am loving, I told you this in a text, and it's probably jumped up to my favorite game this year so far. It probably won't end as my favorite game because I'm expecting some big things to finish, but Days Gone is my jam.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the fishing game.
Well, I don't want to go too deep in it, but I did win my first amateur tournament the other day. No big deal.
Look at you.
If you don't get the pre-show, you're missing out, listeners, because some high quality fishing stories going on. You know how a fisherman's story is. It grows bigger and bigger every time I tell it. So, good time out on the old lake, peaceful, just hanging out, talking to my buddy Micah as I'm catching some fish. Does it get any better? Yes, it's called real fishing, but it was still a good time nonetheless.
Right on.
But yeah, Days Gone. I'm loving the game. If it wasn't so stinking long, I would probably do everything. But at this point, I got to be 20 so hours in, and I think I've still got a couple other like campsites to kind of make it to or whatever. But I really enjoy it. The zombies, avoiding them, whether to do stealth or when to take them on, exploring, destroying the nests, like the flashbacks and stuff. Like I'm glad I picked it up, especially at the $30 price point that I got at. Yeah, I get it had a lot of issues at launch. I didn't play it at launch, so I can't speak to it then. Mm-hmm. But it's up there. I mean, it's a third person kind of action adventure game, RPG, whatever you want to call it. And so that fits my what I really like, especially in single player games. So it's hitting all those places, it's scratching all my itches. And so I'm right now, as much as I liked Resident Evil 2, this game is more Adam style. So it's probably my favorite game. I mean, but that's to say, I really like Marvel Alliance 3. I know we talked about all this stuff last week, but the more and more I play Days Gone, the more and more I'm like, man, I wish I had another month with this before the other games come out. But we got Spyro comes out next week on Switch, and I got that on some weird pre-order deal. I got it for $25 on Switch. I think it's $40 at launch. Somehow I got it for $25 at Walmart.
How'd you do that? Did you talk to one of the shipping dudes in the back and like? Hey.
Well, I'm the king of thrift now. I'm not the garage sale giant. That's what I'm gonna start calling Jesse Knopp. That dude, I'm gonna give him his props. The dude runs the garage sales. Now I don't do garage sales, but he's killing it. The deal that he had the other day, I've told Hannah about it like 5 or 6 times. Like crushed. If you don't know what we're talking about, go search the Facebook group. Crazy garage sale. It is
pretty wild. It's very wild. Like I was like, this ain't real.
I'm finding my deals on the newer stuff. He's finding out on the old retro collector stuff. But good for Jesse because Jesse keeps it. If I'm finding stuff, I'm selling that as soon as I get it. Yeah, he is actually a collector, so I'm really actually glad that he's getting it more than I am because it means a lot more to him than me. But yeah, Days Gone, loving it. But we got Spyro, we got Borderlands 3, we got Link's Awakening. Can we talk about how loaded September is?
I was looking at that the other day, and September is stacked with games. Like, it's insane. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick, because you mentioned in Link's Awakening, you just even... just like when you brought that, because like I said, last week, I was thinking about it, going through and just talking about it, and I was like, how are we supposed to even play all these games? You know what I'm saying?
My plan is I've got Spyro coming in at a good deal, so I won't get to it right away. I'm definitely not going to play it until I beat Marvel Alliance. At least Marvel Alliance. Fire Emblem, it's going to take me 6 months to beat that game.
That's crazy.
But I've got to finish Days Gone so that I can play Borderlands. I won't start Borderlands until I finish Days Gone. Yeah. The wild card is going to be Link's Awakening. I will probably, whatever I'm doing, whenever I get it. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I know I'm going to get it.
Yeah, same.
That I will pause whatever I'm playing on the Switch for that.
Straight up.
It's a priority game for me.
Yeah, man. So for you dear listeners, this is just an idea of how stacked September is, okay? You got the Final Fantasy VIII remastered thing coming out for those of us that'll be playing it, like me and you guys will hear about it for 4 episodes. You got Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Gears 5, Borderlands 3, Daemon X Machina, Ni no Kuni Remastered, Link's Awakening, Contra, The Surge 2, Mario Kart Tour on iOS and Android, Code Vein, Dragon Quest XI-S, which is the Super Deluxe Edition, and FIFA 20, and I think NBA 2K20, and then like a few other games. Like September's a crazy month. I don't know how we're gonna survive it, to be honest with you. I
pick your 1 or 2 and just roll with it, man.
Yeah, and then you've got Control that came out recently.
No reason to buy them all now. Listen to me, dear listeners. Listen to me, Logan. There's no reason to buy them all. There's no reason to buy them all right away if you're not going to play them all right away. Buy the couple that you know you want to play first. You give them 2 months and they will be at $40 at least.
You can't just single me out. I mean, I know you had to say it, and I know that, and I appreciate that you saying that, because now all of our dear listeners are going to be holding me accountable as well. But man, it's crazy. No, my thing is like I'm looking at my backlog and stuff, and like I really need to knock some of this stuff out before the year's out, because I'm not going to carry this stuff into 2020 with me at all. But yeah. Yep.
Anything else you've been playing? And I know
I mean,
playing Fire Emblems and some stuff, but
I mentioned it earlier. Dear listeners, if you want to know what I thought about Super Metroid, just go check out the videos on YouTube. If you want to know what my final thoughts are, you can just skip to episode 10 and then check that out. I mean, I'll just say here, amazing game. Glad I played it. I'm kicking myself for not having played it. Well, kicking myself for not having beaten it sooner. And Nintendo, if somehow you're listening, just release the stupid game on the Switch. Just bring your Super Nintendo games over to the Switch. Just do it. Like, and I was talking about this in the Discord chat, because Wesley Ray kind of teased me a little bit. Like, if they did a Metroid collection, I would buy that thing so fast. I'm just saying, Nintendo, you're losing money. You're losing. If you want money, I'll give it to you happily. Just give me the Metroid games. Yeah. So playing that. I talked about this last episode, that I started playing Bully. You know, and I understood now why people were bullies in school, and it's because it's kind of fun. But I reached a point where I was playing the game, and after about the 20th wedgie I gave to a kid, I was like, I'm a youth pastor, and I'm going around giving kids wedgies in this game, and that's kind of weird. And these girls are flirting with me, and that's kind of creepy now that I think about it. Like, if some of my students came over and saw me playing this would be really weird. Like, I'm throwing eggs at, like, cops. I'm riding bikes around, throwing people off their bikes. I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable playing this game anymore. So I kicked that one to the curb and stopped playing it, because I'm like, as a youth pastor, it feels really weird to play when you think about it. So kicked that to the curb. Like I said, been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses pretty much exclusively right now. I think that's really it. I'm going to check my GG app real quick. I did pick up Gran Turismo Sport, played that for a little bit, and I'm just kind of in a little bit of a bummy mood, kind of bummed out, because there's no good arcade racing games on the PS4, because Xbox owns the best one on there, which is the Forza series. Whether you're playing Motorsport or Horizon, I don't care. It's the best series out there. So, I mean, Gran Turismo Sport's all right. It looks pretty. Looks real in some points. But yeah, I've just mainly been playing Fire Emblem, because I just want to get through it and finish that. So that way, by the time we get to Control or Astral Chain, because I'm going to be trying to do some YouTube content for that for the show, I want to be able to focus on that and enjoy it, and not have Fire Emblem in the back of my head and trying to figure out whatever it is. I can't say anything because I'm past this point now, where if I say anything, it's going to be real spoilery. But yeah, that's basically where I've been at. So let's get into a little bit of what have we been reading, man. Adam, what kind of books you been checking out, man?
Yeah, last time we recorded, I talked some about Praying the Bible by Donald Whitney. So finish that book. It was actually, you never know what you're getting when you're buying a digital unless you kind of look up the page length. But It wasn't a very long book, I found out, but it's still really helpful. I'm really glad I'm reading it. It's been an encouragement in my prayer life. I found as I'm praying and with our ministry team, our staff, just praying by myself, it's really been a huge just changing the way that I pray, praying about different things, not being as repetitive. So I'm super encouraged and really thankful that I read that book. So I finished that and kind of going along with it, not knowing, how God is directing our church just really up, and one of our goals for the next year is just prayer saturation, which, okay, so is every other church's, but we're trying to put some meat to that. And so one of the bios I've mentioned before, reading George Mueller's biography and talking a lot about prayer. I read in that prayer book, that the Praying the Bible one, it said that he has in his journals 50,000 recorded prayers. 30,000 of them were answered within the same day or within the same hour. That's 500 prayers of his a year. Now, again, I don't know what they are. They could be general, small, but 500 of his prayers throughout a year were answered within the same day or within the same hour. Like, holy cow. George Mueller, you're the man. So don't know how he's praying, but I got to find out. I got to get in on that special sauce. Probably he just prayed. Probably wasn't nothing special about it. He just prayed, which we don't always do enough of. But in his bio, reading about his early life, he said something, a line that I thought was really challenging to myself, because I've found myself in the spot before. He said, I found myself reading more books about the Bible than reading the Bible itself. And I was like, Adam, do you feel it? Because that was for you. And I'm thankful that God gives us other authors. But it's a good gut check every once in a while of, okay, Adam, you're carving out time to read another book. You're making emphasis. Why aren't you treating the word like that? This book is about the Bible that you're wanting to learn. And now, again, thankful for voices that can help me discern and add commentary and teach me some of what the Bible is saying. But it doesn't have the power of God. It doesn't. It's not the same. And so it was just a good challenge and a good reminder of, hey, these other books are really good. And my pastor was talking about it. He's like, I need to grow. He was saying, I need to grow in my other readings. But I'm thankful that God had instilled within me a passion to read the Bible. And so, I read the Bible, but do I approach it in the same way, in the same excitement and the same vigor that I do other books?
Yeah.
Adam, check yourself. Because I don't know if I'm always there.
Come on.
So,
that reminds me.
Today.
That reminds me of this Spurgeon quote. I looked it up real quick. Visit many good books, but live in the Bible. Man, I remember that because I tweeted that out a couple weeks ago. I think last month on our church's Twitter account, because we do the hashtag Theologian Thursday. I do that. We do that on the church's Twitter account. Do it on TRG's Twitter account. Get in on it, y'all. I don't want to be the only one riding those waves. You know what I'm saying? I'll be tweeting stuff out all day long, but let's get it going. But yeah, it's, man, dude, and that speaks so much to me reading the Bible supernaturally by John Piper. Which, by the way, in case you guys are following me on Twitter, I quit the book because after 10 chapters, I was like, John Piper is literally just saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again at this point. I get it, but dude, it's so good because it just made me think about how, all too often, and this is going to go into the book that I'm going to bring up, but all too often we tend to go to the Bible just for head knowledge, and we don't, and I'm using John Piper's words here, we don't go to it and savor his words. We don't go to it and savor the Bible as trying to seek him and get him. And so what happens is we go in just looking for stuff to kind of, treating it like a little bit like a buffet, like, hey, this is good. I want this. This speaks to me right here. Okay, this is good. And then that's it. We don't really, like, we're just dissect. It's not, I'm trying to think of how to say this without being, we just treat it flippantly, I guess I'll say. We don't treat it as the word of God. So yeah, man, that speaks a lot to what I've been doing. And this also goes into the book that I started reading, Dangerous Calling by Paul David Tripp, off of recommendation from my pastor, because him and his wife finished it recently, and he was like, man, I think this would be really good for you to just read and be aware of some of the different things in ministry, especially since you're new. And I was like, all right. And then I ordered it that day, and I told him, and he was like, I need to apologize to your wife, because I feel like anytime I talk about a book, you go and buy it. And I'm like, it's okay. It's ministry, so it is what it is. But I started reading it this past week, and man, there was I'm about 6 chapters in, and every chapter has cut me up in one way or another, because it's just crazy to see how I'm just 3 years in on ministry, and some of those things that pastors who are burnout or wrestling with stuff, like I've said that, like those are things that I felt. That's weird. It's also nice to know I'm not the only one. And man, it's crazy. And he had this one chapter on seminary about how, one of the flaws of it is, and he wasn't trying to talk bad about seminary or saying like people shouldn't go to seminary. He was just saying kind of what tends to happen sometimes is, we go to seminary and we get all this head knowledge about God and theology to the point where it stops leading us into worship, and we start thinking, oh, because I know so much, then I'm spiritually mature. It's like, you may know a lot, but you might still be a little infant brat with some of that knowledge. Like, you don't know how to use any of that. And man, it got me thinking about my time in seminary, where there was a point where I was like that. Like, I know so much. I know more than some other people. Like, I'm more spiritually mature. It's like, no, I'm just an arrogant punk kid with this stuff. And man, it cut to the quick. You know what I'm saying? And so, in that, I even was still kind of with that, even coming to this church. I'm like, man, I know so much more than some of our deacons. Like, just having this real arrogant attitude about it. And it's like, the more I know about God, the more humble I should be. Like, oh man, it cut me up good. But then he was talking about how, some seminary professors treat their role as just a teacher. Like, they don't see it as a way of, as a means of ministering to their students. And I'm not saying all seminary professors do this, but there are some where they go in, they teach, and that's it. And he was saying what seminary professors ought to do more of is checking in on their students and kind of being a little bit of a pastor, because you may never know. So that student may have stopped going to church. That student may be struggling with something, and they aren't talking to their pastor. And so the professor should kind of reach out and try to do a little triage and see how he can help and be there for the student and minister to them. And I'm not saying and Paul wasn't saying this, and I'm not saying it either, that the professor should take the role of that student's pastor. You shouldn't replace that. But at the same time, you don't got to be a pastor to check in on a brother in Christ. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to be a pastor to pull someone aside and be like, hey, let me pray for you. Let me see how you're doing. That's okay. That's what we're called to do as Christians. And man, it kind of blew my mind a little bit, both in that regard, but also how I really didn't take advantage of my seminary in ways that I should have. Let me say it this way. I didn't take advantage of the different opportunities to be humbled and lead and love people at seminary like I should have. Man, thinking about it now, it just cuts me up right now. Oh my goodness. So I'm just going to say this, dear listeners. I'm 6 chapters in. You can take my recommendation for what it's worth. And if you read only those first couple chapters, it'll have been worth the price you pay for that book, because it's not only is it important for pastors to read or just people in ministry, because it's going to give you an idea of what you're getting into or what you're feeling, or put some words to what you're going through. But I think even if you're not a pastor, if you just go to a church, this is going to give you an idea of what your pastor and staff members are dealing with on the daily. And so it'll give you a better idea of how you can love and pray for your pastors. Like, it's wild, man. And I'm not going to get into it. We can do this. We can probably do a side episode or something for Patreon if we want to. But ministry comes with its own set of unique challenges, as does every job. But I think this one comes with some extra ones too, because you deal with people, and you get in, you help with people's lives, and life is messy. You do some stuff. You talk to people, you love on people, and those same people might turn around and stab you in the back. It's brutal. It is brutal. But yeah, Dangerous Calling, Paul David Tripp. Boy, it's a ride. It's a trip. As we can, you know what I'm saying? Paul's going to take you on a trip. Paul's going to take you on a trip. That's what I'm saying. But yeah. Speaking of trips, dear listeners, let's go on a trip down nostalgia road here. We've got 150 episodes now of the Reformed Gamers. We've been around for almost 5 years, which blows my mind every single time I think about it, because I'm like, I've done this show longer than I've held some jobs. I don't know what that says about me, but we've been doing this show for a while now. And man, it's been cool to see the show start off from where it was to where it is now. And so we put out some questions trying to get you guys to kind of let us know some of your favorite moments, some of your favorite episodes of the show. And so I tried to compile them in a list as best as I possibly could. And we're just gonna go through the list here and dedicate this to y'all at this point. We're gonna go down this trip with y'all, share some of your favorite memories, and we're gonna talk about them. Maybe share some insight on some of those moments or those episodes, and just kind of hang out for the rest of the episode. So, Adam, man, which one do we want to start with? Do we want to start with Isaac?
Yeah. I mean, we can start with any of them. Do we want to start with the the listeners, or we want to give a couple of our first ones first, and then we'll go through their list?
Yeah, we can give a couple of ours first, man. What's been one of your favorite moments or memories or even episodes of the show?
I mean, if we're talking show specific, not show group, people interactions, we shared some of this in the pre-show, but really that moment of like, wow, we have a real life game developer who worked on big time games doing an interview with us with Bill Garner.
All right, welcome back to TRG, and joining us for this part of the episode is Bill Gardner from the Deep End Games. Bill, how you doing, man?
Good. You guys?
Doing okay.
Doing great.
So, Bill, we brought you on because we wanted to, first of all, thank you for coming on, taking some time to talk with us, and we also want to hear about this new game that you're working on, and so just kind of spend some time telling our listeners about who you are, what the Deep End Games is, and this really cool game that you guys are working on.
Sure. Thank you for that. So I'm Bill Gardner. I'm the creative director on Perception, which is a narrative-driven horror game where you play as a blind woman. And when I tell people that initially, their initial reaction is often like, "What? What are you blind? What are you talking about?" But that's good. That's what I want people to think. Because then when I say echolocation, and people are like, "Oh, like bats," like it's like pretty much, yeah. And so the way the game functions is that the sounds in the world will create essentially what the main character Cassie interprets as a visual. And this is all based on a lot of research we've done, and there are actual people who do echolocate. There's a blind man in particular that I've spoken with, Daniel Kish. He runs an organization called World Access for the Blind, and they teach blind people how to echolocate. They've done studies where you can actually watch their visual cortex light up in not CAT scans or MRIs or whatever the tech is. They can actually see that their brains have sort of remapped themselves and retrained themselves to interpret sound as visual data. And so we're taking that idea and running with it. And so we're making this narrative game where you're exploring this mansion, this abandoned estate up in Gloucester, Massachusetts. It's this craggy old place on the water that, it's been abandoned for years. And for some reason, Cassie has been the house. It seems like has been calling to her. She's had these visions, these nightmares about the estate, and she knows the place is real, and she knows she has to find it because it's really it's haunting her. And so she's doing all this research, and she winds up after months and months, she discovers it's in Gloucester, and she winds up hopping on the first plane she can to fly across country. She's from New Mexico. Flying across country, and she shows up at the front door, and she's like, "Okay, why am I here? What the hell does this house have to say to me?" And so you'll wind up exploring the house and unraveling the mystery, this generational saga, all these different time periods. You wind up basically piecing together what happened there, and as you do, you wind up jumping back in time. And then you'll keep jumping back and make your way eventually to the origin of the house and figure out what the sort of the nature of the haunting, if you will, the sort of the curse that's there, this thing that is haunting Cassie, and this thing that has caused all this horrible tragedy to happen, the stuff of legends and the sort of urban legends in the area about Echo Bluff. So that's Perception in a nutshell. There's quite a bit more to talk about there, but before being the creative director, before starting the Deep End Games to work on Perception, I was at Irrational Games for about 12 years, where I worked on, pretty much everything we worked on after Freedom Force. I started shortly before SWAT 4, and on SWAT 4 I was one of three designers, which is a really small team working on that, and so I really cut my teeth on that. It was a tremendous experience. And then after that, we tried to figure out what was next, and we wound up being able to sell a spiritual successor to System Shock 2, which was BioShock, and the rest is history. From BioShock to BioShock Infinite, and then a whole lot of unannounced prototypes and tests and things we were trying to sell and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, BioShock and BioShock Infinite are the ones that I think most people know the most.
And he was so chill and laid back, like super friendly, like took the time. We were video Skyping with him at his house where he was developing. What was the game that they made again?
Perception.
And like, I don't even remember how it happened. It was like, hey, we've got this guy Bill Gardner on.
I remember
messaged him. In our naivety, we were like, hey, we should just message him to see if he wants to do it.
Yeah, because we were on Twitter, and I remember seeing a video for it. I'm like, dude, this game sounds awesome, because it was when they first released their teaser for it. I'm like, dude, this is basically Daredevil, but it's a survival horror game. Like, I want to play this. And so I DM'd them and was like, hey, would you guys want to come on our little rinky-dinky podcast and talk about this game? And they were like, hell yeah, let's get on there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
We didn't ask him what he had been reading lately, though.
No, we didn't. Were we doing that back then? Were we doing that around that time? I feel like we were.
No, I don't think so. It's just a joke.
Man. We should have, man. Man, that was cool. Oh, just getting to talk to him.
It was just a really cool moment. Like it was
like we had made it.
Yeah, like we don't do it because of that moment or for free games. We do it because we love talking to each other, talking about video games, and interacting with the listeners via Facebook or Twitter, Discord, or whatever. I mean, that's why we really do it. But every once in a while, you stumble and fall into something that you're like, how in the world did I just get here?
Yep.
And that was one of those moments where we stumbled into something that was like way above our pay grade.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. That was like year 2, maybe.
I think
we hadn't been doing it very long.
I think it was episode 51.
Compared to,
yeah,
compared to our 150 episodes now. So a third of the way through. And we just, they say that the blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Yeah.
And it was like, what just happened? Like, this was legit. Because I didn't even know going into it, like, how legit it was until he was mentioning some of the games that he had been a part of, like BioShock, and I'm like, wow, this is legit. So that was a really just cool moment for us of like, we're very niche. Like, we have our Christian community for the most part that listens to us. We don't get too many of the broader opportunities, but that was one of those where I felt like we got into the other side of the world. Like, maybe one day we'll end up at a Comic-Con or a E3 or something like that. I don't know where this is all going to go.
Yeah.
But that was like our little moment of, hey, you guys are a part of the industry in some ways.
Yeah, man. And plus, I remember being so nervous going into that interview because I'm like, dude, we're going to talk to a game developer for the first time, and I have no idea what I'm going to ask him. Like, you probably can't tell in the recording because I try to compose myself as best as I could and edit out a lot of stuff. No, I'm kidding. But I try to compose myself a lot, and I was nervous. Like, I don't know about you, man, but I was a wreck, man. But it was so cool.
I don't think I was nervous because I didn't know what exactly we had fallen into. Again, I didn't really recognize it until later of like, I mean, you get those moments in life where someone's like, hey, do you know who you just talked to? And you're like, no, who was that? And they're like, that's this guy. And you're like,
what?
Holy cow, I just said that to that guy? Like, oh, that's the president of the seminary. That's the Bible professor of this, that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I probably sounded like an idiot.
And I just told him my favorite movie was Napoleon Dynamite. Oh my gosh.
But no, that's one that always has kind of stuck out to me because I mean, following him on Twitter and seeing the people he's interacted with, I'm like, that dude was on our podcast. Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
And then even just playing the game, I don't know if you got to play the game or not afterwards, but like playing the game afterwards and seeing some of the things that he had talked about and seeing some of the things that we had mentioned and just seeing the influence that he had mentioned that went into the game's development, I was like, dude, this is wild. This is wild. So yeah, it's a thing. And I should mention this, dear listeners, because it's probably already happened. Kind of what we're going to do through this section here, there's going to be certain parts where it's actually going to clip into that specific episode, and you're going to hear a clip of it just to kind of help reminisce a little bit more and kind of get more context of what it is we're talking about. So that may not happen for every topic, but it'll happen for a couple of them. And so you guys get to kind of literally go back in time and check out a little bit of that episode and then come back and we'll just kind of keep going down that. So yeah, Skinner will be working that out and yeah. Yeah, I mean that dude. So for me, then there's so much, that it's hard to just pick one thing. That one right there was definitely a big one, and I think honestly, just my favorite moment. And this is something that Nate brought up, talking about how Nate McKeever, one of the hosts of the Backlog Breakdown, go listen to them, dear listeners. He brought it on. Oh, dang it! I was hoping I wasn't going to tear up talking about this. Yep, there's the tears. There was this moment. I specifically remember there was this one week where Mass Effect Andromeda had come out, and I was so bummed out over that. But more importantly, there was other stuff going on in my personal life, and then just some other behind the scenes stuff with the Facebook group. That it was a really rough week in particular for me, and so trying to kind of keep my chin up, keep the podcast going, just not kind of fall into a pit of just eating ice cream and watching. I don't know. I guess girls would watch chick flicks, so I guess I would watch anime. I don't know, but trying not to basically be a blubber and mess and being a punk. I was just trying to lead and stuff, but it was a rough week. I'm not gonna lie, it was probably one of the worst weeks I've ever had. Just being part of TRG, because just some of the stuff that was going on with the Facebook group. Nothing with Adam or any of the other admins. It was just there was some other stuff. I won't get into it because it's really just not worth bringing up anymore at this point. But it was just a rough week, and I remember people just messaging me and encouraging me like, hey, man, I don't know how you're handling this as best as you are, but I know if it was me, I would have like lost my witness or freaked out or done something. And I was like, well, it's just not worth really thinking about, It's just it's just not worth damaging my character because of my situation. It's not worth it. And I remember when this happened, because it was the episode that you had just gotten your Switch and you were talking about Legend of Zelda. You were talking about how cool the Switch is, and I was like, that's kind of cool. That sounds all right. And then literally a couple of days after we had finished recording, my wife came home, and I remember seeing a video of just a lot of the different friends that we've made from this group, which is one of my favorite things about this, is just all the friends that we've made that are off doing their own podcasts and things like that now. And they were talking about how cool the group is and how thankful they are to know me and just encouraging me. And I'm like, dude, I needed this in more ways than one. But I remember one of the guys, they in the video he was talking about assembling a group of guys over the last 24 hours to come together to do something special. I'm like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And then he positions the camera to show the Switch behind him. He's like, why don't you take a look behind you and ask your wife what that box is all about? I'm like, what box are you talking? And I saw the Switch. I'm like, you did not just get me. No, that's not real. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm like, go look at my bag. And I'm like, no. And I can't say thank you enough to you guys. Know who you are. You're listening. I can't say thank you enough for blessing me in the way with a Switch. And I'm not crying because y'all got me a Switch right now. I'm crying because y'all came together and did something that generous. That you guys came together to just encourage me. And really, if you guys never got me a Switch, the video would have been more than enough. But man, it's that moment where I felt that community surround us, because we tend to forget that, especially just if you're even in church, like you forget that you're surrounded by a body of believers and they love you and they care about you. But it was that moment where I'm like, holy crap, these people actually care about me enough to put this video together, to take time out of their day to like encourage me, joke, say something stupid like Flash is better than Daredevil. Luke, I'm looking at you, man. Even though it's kind of true. But just to do that, man, I didn't mean to get this real this quick, but man, it was a huge moment for me. It was definitely one of my favorite standout moments, and I love being able to record videos of games playing on my Switch and put it on YouTube and give back through that way. So it's kind of comes full circle, The community gave me something, encouraged me, and now I'm able to use that to turn that around and give back and encourage. And it's cool, man. I think honestly that's my favorite thing is our community. Anytime they do something rad like that. There was one time where one of our listeners was in the middle of that hurricane that hit the Houston area, and he lost a lot of stuff, and our community came together to support him and help him out, and just some other things. Like, I don't care what anyone says, man. Our community is the best. Like,
well, it's one of those things of there's most things in life we like, but it's usually about the people around those things. Like sports, I love playing sports growing up, but my memories are the people that I played with as much as the moments.
Yeah.
So whether that's, memories that growing up with my buddies, things with church, like all these different things, the things in and of themselves are good and really it can be fun and exciting, but it's always about the people you do it with. And so, I mean, doing the podcast could be fun, but I mean, part of it's getting to do it with you, being able to stay in touch as families, getting to know more people in the group, those things. And then they've done stuff like that for our family in regards to adoption. And even when we miscarried, some guys really, again, just thoughtful. I mean, just really thoughtful things to say, hey, I know you guys are going bad and we want to get you some meals. So here's some money to go buy meals. Like those things. It makes, I mean, really, there's probably been times for you, well, I know there have because you've told me, I've kind of talked you off cliffs here and there, and times for me where it's like, Adam, I don't know, man, we're just kind of burnt out. We're just tired. But it's those things that make us want to keep doing it because we enjoy it, but it's the people that have blessed us and it's us wanting to bless back.
Yeah.
So.
That's true, man.
No doubt. It's a good one.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, dear listeners, just know, man, we love you guys just as much as you guys love us. You guys are great. So we got to talk about something like that's going to get me high. I'll say my other favorite thing was getting Retro Warriors on here. Like, I love their podcast. Then when it comes to like games, and since you guys I assume we're probably born at different times and such, what's the earliest game that you guys remember playing and that would, I guess, would be retro for you?
Well, Saturn was born shortly after the end of the Civil War.
My first game was collect the shells at Gettysburg. We just roamed the battlefield with primitive metal detectors made of donkeys and bone. For me, it was the Atari 2600, the video computer system they called it at the
VCS.
time. Yep, and it was the first successful cartridge-based home video game console made by Atari in 1977.
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
I was born in the early 80s, and my parents had gotten an Atari shortly before I was born, and they had already accumulated a handful of games, which was the style at the time. Everybody accumulated games because they started to go for bargain bin prices in the early 80s.
Had an onion on your belt.
Yeah, he had an onion on your belt. It was a style at the time. So we had a ton of Atari games. So for me, it was things like Combat and Breakout and Skydiver and Frogger and Donkey Kong and those really, really the earliest primitive video games were what I remember from my youngest year.
For me, it's Nintendo Entertainment System all the way. I was born 88, so I was really playing games like 91, 92 is the earliest I could even imagine myself playing games. And really, it was just a stack of NES games we had. It was your Super Mario Brothers. It was Trog. It was Milon's Secret Castle. We had a weird smorgasbord of games. I loved Trog.
Were you being punished with it?
Play in your room now. An hour of Trog. But in the first Castlevania, that's the first game that I remember. I vividly remember going to a store, seeing the game and the cover art in the pawn shop we were at the end of our street, and being like, "Oh, I want to get that," and buying it and going home and playing it and enjoying it. So. It really just kind of a random selection of NES games that we had inevitably, just accrued, had been piled up because at that point, several of them were older games. They were bargain bin games, if that. So it's just whatever we had laying around the house that my NES could play was, basically what I had.
Yeah, I was just looking through all the old episode titles.
Man. Like that was the episode where actually I brought this up and we talked about it and got hyped and gave my thoughts on the Switch, and like, yeah, that was a great way to kind of bring me up out of that rough week. Was you guys blessing me with the video and then the Switch and then getting to talk to the Retro Warriors. I was like, dude, I'm back. Let's go. Let's get this popping. So,
I think probably some of my favorite series. Looking back, I'm like, man, I really enjoyed when we did like the State of series, so State of PlayStation, State of Nintendo, State of Xbox. Like those were really fun. It was like we don't do a lot of like series like that, but that was like, hey, this is like our next month and a half and what we're going with, and that was like really fun getting different people who we knew were passionate about each of those different platforms. It was a lot of fun. That's probably one of the few series that we ever did. But one that's kind of comes to mind as some of our most memorable episodes for me.
And I remember those things they were downloaded quite a bit for quite a while. So it was a good series. It was a fun series too. I remember making the graphics for those too, and they were some of my favorites in a while. They just look cool. But yeah, man, I'm trying to think of some other ones. What are some other ones? We did the.
Well, if we're gonna be adding clips, I mean, let's again. We mentioned in pre-show, but a lot of our listeners are going to be prompting even more thoughts. So let's start getting into some listeners. It's not just about us. Like a lot of you guys have walked with us through the last 150 episodes. So as much as we got good memories, we know you guys got a lot of those also. So we also want to focus a lot on you guys tonight. It is when we're recording, but as we're recording, we want this to be about you guys even more so than even us. So let's get into theirs.
Yeah, man. So let's kick it off with this one because this one's definitely going to be fun. Isaac Stoltz was talking about how he really loves the Arnold impersonations, and we haven't had Arnold on in a while. You know what I'm saying? He wanted to shout out the new releases, not announce them, not say them. He wanted to shout them out. So, without further ado, I feel like he's gotten taller. He's so big. Okay, here he is. He's going to do the new releases. Here you go, dear listeners. Arnold. I have gotten bigger. I've lifted so many weights. I have trucks now. So we got new releases for you kids with your games, your game systems. So you got this Knick Knack 2 on the PS4, September 5th. Get it. I think it's good. I don't know what it is. I think the character grows. He gets big. Okay, cool. I tried to audition for the character of Knick Knack, and they said, no, you can't do it because you keep calling the character Knick Knack. But I think that sounds better. I would buy a game called Knick Knack 2. Anyway, so you also got Destiny 2 on the PS4 and the Xbox One, September 6th. I'm going to play that with The Rock, Dolph Lundgren. We're going to get a party and we're going to have our ghosts out. We're going to shoot the things and get the loads. And it'll be just like that time when I was in Predator, where I was like, get to the chopper, come on. And then you got this really terrible game called Pro Evolution Soccer 2018. Nobody plays this game. It's all about FIFA. But if you want it, you can get it on your PS4, Xbox One, PS3, 360. Who still plays on that? That's like asking who plays on the Super Nintendo. Actually, Super Nintendo's a good system. Okay. Anyway, so you play it on the PC on September 12th. And then you got, what's this game? Divinity Original Sin 2 on the PC, September 14th. I don't play PC games. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, PS4, Xbox One, PC, September 15th. You know who else is Dishonored? Sylvester Stallone. Got him. NBA Live 18, PS4, Xbox One, September 15th. See, that's a real sports game, not this stupid truck racing game. What is this? What was that game? Adam, what was that game that the racing game with the Hydro?
Truck Racer?
No, the Hydro and the Thunder. The Hydro.
I don't even know. I don't even pulled up as like Hydro Thunder Hurricane.
Either way, that's a great sounding game. I would totally buy
that game if I played video games. I'm too busy lifting weights and fighting aliens and stuff. Anyway, NHL 18 for the PS4, Xbox One, September 15th. And this one, I know my boy Logan is all like, Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS. You know, Logan, you're a little baby because you play on these handhelds with the little baby controllers for the little baby hands. You're just a baby, but it's a Metroid game, so I guess it's okay. Got him. September 15th. It's gonna be good. I don't know. Like I said, I play games, helicopters in between saving the world and doing things and lifting the weights. Adam, how are you? You lifting weights? You getting big?
Arnold, you must be hanging out with Logan too much. I know you haven't been on the podcast, but you're hanging out with him too much where you're actually almost starting to sound like each other. That's crazy. Have you ever heard that before? He's been busy.
Do what?
He's been busy. You know, he's been governating and all that stuff.
He's in Mortal Kombat, or at least his likeness is, you know. So he's
movies, all this stuff.
He's a busy cat. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, we might try to swing him on at some point. But those were definitely some fun parts. And man, I don't even know how they got started. To be honest with you, like I think I just remember doing it one day because I think it's one of those things where like when I was younger I did it a lot and everyone's like, oh man, that's so good, and I'm just like, you know, yeah. There it was. He came out a little bit, but I don't know why I started doing it on the show. To be honest with you, it was a thing for a while.
That was a season of podcast life where it was like every week Arnold was showing up, and then it just kind of faded away.
He just got busier, you know. Went on to different things and all that. But yeah, so that's definitely a fun memory of the show. I remember early on with the show when we were trying to figure out a logo and episode art. There was one that we did of a digitized version of Arnold screaming in Kindergarten Cop, and we used that for a while. And man, it just, golly, that was the early days, man. That was like episode 2 or 3, I think, if I remember correctly.
Those were some OG days back then, man.
OG days, that's for sure.
Finding your way, talking about Final Fantasy all the time.
Do we really got to get into Tim's? Because Tim Baker said that. He brought up all the ones we talked about Final Fantasy. And I was like, you mean the Dark Ages where I talked about it for like 8 episodes?
You and Jonathan, man, those were some dark ages back then. There were some of those episodes that was like, if you went back and listened to it now, you'd probably wonder what in the world were we thinking? Well, that's all I've been playing. So what you got for me?
That's it.
Final Fantasy Master.
Oh, man. Yeah, speaking of that, so I'm noticing a trend here, Adam. Like 2 episodes ago, I was like, yeah, I beat Final Fantasy 4. It was great. Last episode, I beat Final Fantasy 6. It's great. This episode, I beat Final Fantasy 7. It was great.
There you go.
I mean, okay. Guys, come close. I'm going to level with you guys. I like Final Fantasy 7. I think it's a great game. I don't think it's better than 6. It's close. It comes close in a lot of ways, but it's not better than Final Fantasy 6.
Well, that's like we've had some of our new patrons come in like, yeah, I just found your show and I'm listening to like the very first episodes. I'm like, please don't, because you will unsub from our Patreon. You will stop listening because like I don't know how we talked about Final Fantasy a lot, and then there was that one season where it was like what 2 months straight, 3 months straight, where I was playing Final Fantasy games back to back to back to back. I mean, everyone's like, Logan, please play something else.
Some of the choices you were making back then
they weren't good.
Irrational at best.
They were not good.
You were playing Persona 4 nonstop and Final Fantasy like nonstop.
Okay. Hey,
this was pre-Adam. Adam comes in, I would have shut that down.
Persona
hard.
4. No, you were around for Persona 4. I remember. Persona 4 was a fine one. The Final Fantasy games. Yeah, I'll give you that. That one was iffy, but Persona 4, come on, man. Persona 4 was a good one.
The Platinum was crazy.
Platinum was crazy. As my wife says in the Wives episode, she hated it, you know. So, but yeah, Final Fantasy. I promise when I get Final Fantasy 8 remastered, I will play other games so we talk about that on the show. To be honest, between Control and Astral Chain and all the other games coming out, I probably won't even have any time to play Final Fantasy, so I may not even pick it up right away. But yeah, So there's that. But speaking of games that we talked about a lot, man, Luke McAllister brought up the constant and sometimes annoying praise of Ni no Kuni from you, dude.
Hey.
But it got him to play
You know
it.
what I'm saying? Again, I don't want to be sacrilegious, but we talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the capital GG.
Oh, no.
But we got some lowercase g that I was spreading about too. It was good news about Ni no Kuni that some people needed to hear. That game was some good stuff. And I had to become a believer. JRPGs were not my skill set before I've come into this group. But Ni no Kuni, if you haven't played it, people, you need to play it. This game is good. There's a little extra praise for you. And Luke he's a believer now. He likes it.
I can't tell if that's the Holy Spirit making me feel weird right now or if it's the tacos from earlier. But
hey, I said little g. I said little g.
I know. I heard.
But if it literally means good news, it applies.
Okay.
We've taken ownership of the big G.
Okay.
But lowercase g, we can say it was some. There's been a few things that I've probably pushed harder on this podcast. That and Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine are probably my two most talked about games.
Yeah, you haven't brought that up in a while, man. But yeah, that's another one. I think you even brought that up in the conversation with Bill Gardner because you're like, "Have you played this game?" And he was like, "Oh yeah," and you're like, "Oh, dude." But
let's go.
But yeah, man. Oh man, I think that's another thing that's been kind of cool about our show is to be able to kind of share in our excitement of those games, and then not everybody, but other listeners go out and play the game and like, oh, dude, this game is good. And it kind of gives me, because I lose sight of this from time to time, but it kind of gives us that thing of like, dude, people value our opinions on games. Like, I don't know why, but they do. But that's been cool. Like, I remember when Titanfall 2 came out, and I was banging that drum for the longest time. And man, seeing people on Twitter, Facebook, my PlayStation account, because I had an Xbox back then also, so people on Xbox were playing it, and they were like, dude, this campaign is something else. I'm like, I told you. Did you get the little wrist thing that gives you the time travel thing? And they're like, no. And then they play that, and they're like, oh, dude, this game. So I'm just saying, dear listeners, if you still haven't played that, I'll even throw Ni no Kuni in there because I plan on playing it next month. I don't know how I'm going to do that with Dragon Quest now that I think about it. But I'm going to play that. Like, if you haven't played that or Titanfall, like, or any of the games that we recommended, I get backlogs and all that jazz. Playing when you got time, playing when your finances allow for it. But, dude, some of those games that we played, oh, man. Let's do that real quick. Let's just pick one game. In the entire time that we've done the show, what has been your favorite game that you've played? Well, I know that's hard to pick.
God of War is probably the best game of this generation and top 3 games I've ever played in my life. So
that was a pretty good one. Also, one of my favorite.
I would say this is what I'm going to do. Probably the best game that I would have never played if I wasn't on this podcast.
Persona 4.
Or in the Facebook group, Persona 4 Golden.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, I would have never touched that game.
Oh my gosh, Adam.
If I wasn't.
Hit me in the feels.
I think that's the it's kind of like a culture shock for some people, especially in the early days. It's not like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like in some ways probably for the better. But in those early days, when you joined the group, you felt like you had to buy. We didn't have backlogs and finances.
Yeah, that wasn't around to curb.
It was buy everything in the early days. And so now we have more like self-control probably.
Yeah.
But it was as soon as someone joined the group, they're like, I feel like I have to buy and play every game.
We kind of had.
Well, okay.
We had this motto of ruin your finances and build your backlog is what it was.
Basically. Now I gotta take a step back. Before the group, I had never finished a Zelda game either.
Oh, wow.
So I got to be careful. Persona 4 was okay. That's not exactly true. I had played other Zelda games, the original Nintendo ones, but I never played any of the good ones.
Right.
And so the Zelda games and Persona would be probably the biggest games. I'm like, I don't know. I would have just stuck with my Call of Duties and my sports games.
Yeah.
But the influence. I mean, Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, dude.
I had a backlog of shame before. The group, but I've played a lot of good stuff because of it.
Dude, I remember when you picked up a PS. I think you picked up a PS3 in some games, and then I picked up a PS3 in some games because I have no self-control. And playing those games, yeah, dude. Oh man, even the first one that's on the PlayStation 1 is still really good to play. It's very memorable. Man, I had forgotten about that. That was a good time. Yeah, it is hard to pick just one. I don't know why I did that to us just now. That was really rude. But Titanfall 2 was a fun one. I think I'll go with that for now, just because it was cool to play that and play it with people in the community and just see us all enjoying this one game at one time. It was just, I don't know, it was cool. We had Titanfall Tuesdays for a while. I just remembered that. Yeah. Oh man, there were some nights I was playing Titanfall by myself because everybody else was like, I'm gonna play something else. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, I think Titanfall 2 is one of mine. Oh man, what a standout game. So good. We should do an episode on it. I don't think there's anything in there we could talk about, but we should, I don't know. But yeah, so there's that one. That's good. That's good. I'm looking forward to playing Ni no Kuni next month. Who else do we got on here, man? I'm gonna let you try and say the next person's name.
We've got Javier Medina, who has become like big time encourager. I love
Straight
it.
up.
Anytime he tags me on Facebook, I know it's going to be good. Mm-hmm. Usually he just throws in the Adam and Logan tag on some random video game post, and it's always super clutch.
Yeah.
But his was when I take Logan to church. Now I don't take him to church quite as much as I used to, but I used to preach a little bit during the what you've been reading times.
We would get into it, man. But yeah.
Good word.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. I always love this section of the show. You know, we get a lot of good feedback about this section of the show, and man, when the Holy Spirit gets going, man, I tell you what, it gets you.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It just it's fun getting the flesh out, because it even enhances my reading, to be honest, because as I'm reading, I don't journal very much, but now that we do this segment, as I'm reading, I'm thinking, what do I need to remember? What can I share? What can I pass on? Which I think is a very biblical thing, is we need to be sharing things that we're learning, things that we're
absolutely
reading, that we're understanding about God's character, even just for encouragement. For me, it's been big just because it allows me to wrestle with what I'm reading more than just, checking that box off of, have I read my Bible today? Have I done my Devo? This is really helping me, go a little bit deeper in my Bible study.
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I don't know if I've calmed down. I don't know if it's in my old age. I've got more Nate McKeever curmudgeon, but I've taken the dear listeners to church every once in a while, whether that's on adoption, just on that gospel goodness, capital G.
Come on.
But yeah, it's funny because I never mean for him to be that way. But again, you get me talking about God, you get me talking about what he's teaching me and what I'm learning, I'm gonna get excited.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit's gonna start.
And I don't get to preach as much as I'd like to. So you guys are gonna get it every once in a while. Yep. Just bear with me.
I get it, man. It was good. I remember. I remember that one episode where we had Meef J from Everyday Gamers on. Everyday Gamers. And then he goes on to create man, and he creates man in his own image, and it totally sets us apart from everything else that's been created so far. And my professor really drilled down into kind of the deeper theology of this, and that, we're created in the image of God. So in essence, we are representatives of God. And since we are created differently, with a little bit higher regard than some of the other creations, there's a lot more care that we should take when it comes to interacting with one another and communicating with one another. We talked about language in the last episode, and that very much goes along with this here. If we're interacting with one another, if we're talking to people who even aren't Christians, they're still created in the image of God, and they still have that in them. And so we should treat them with the same level of respect that we should be treating each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Y'all didn't tell me to bring a sermon tonight.
I'm sorry.
I could have come and brought the heat, but y'all are bringing it. I'm telling you.
I mean, hey, man. Next time when we get you on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, piggybacking off of what you're saying, how cool is it that when you think about when God said let there be light, or he basically spoke Mount Everest into existence and spoke these galaxies and massive stars that are 50 times the size of the sun into existence. But then when it came to humans, he's like, I'm going to breathe life into this creation because it is made in my image. That is just freaking cool. That he could have just been like, man, woman, kaboom. I'm going to I'll be in the hammock on day 7 or whatever. But he breathed into us, and that's cool.
Everyday gamers.
And we got to that section and we were both talking and then we were done. And he was just like, look, you guys didn't tell me to bring a sermon ready for this. It's so good. I hope we can find the clip for that because that was a really funny moment in the time of the podcast. But yeah, man, there's times, man. And I remember when you suggested bringing that on and I was kind of nervous. I was like, I don't know how it's going to go, but the same.
Well, my thought was, hey, we're saying we're reformed gamers, but what sets us apart?
Yeah.
We're talking about video games, like everybody does that. So let's add a little meat to that, and it's share just what we're learning, what we're reading,
and that's what sold me on it.
I'm really thankful.
That's what sold me on it. I was like, yeah, that'll really set us apart. That'll really add some cool flavor to the show. And man, it from what I've been told, and this comes in a little bit later. From someone else, Jeremiah Stiles says that that's one of his favorite sections of the show. And we've gotten that from several of our listeners, actually a lot of our listeners, is that that's one of their favorite segments is just talking about what we've been reading, and kind of getting into it. And man, I was sitting there thinking about this the other day. I'm like, no other gaming podcast really encourage. Well, let me step back a second. No other Christian gaming podcast that I'm aware of encourages people to read and get into theology. I mean, there's some out there that do that from time to time, but like we do it every episode. We're going to bring in what we've been reading. And one of the nice things about that is that it's kind of kept me accountable to keep reading. It's like if I'm not like, it's like, man, the show's coming up and I haven't read something, like I better get into the word. I better get into some kind of book or something. So I have something to talk about. And usually it's when God's like, hey, what's up? I'm still here. I'm still good. Why? Get in this word. You know what I'm saying? So it's been good even for me, just keeping me accountable and staying consistent with it, to the point where I've even done this thing where every morning I'll read my devotional. I'll open up the Bible app, take a screenshot of the highlighted text that I had, and I'll post it on my Instagram stories, mainly for my students to let them know, like, hey, I'm taking time to read the Bible today. You should too, to kind of encourage them. And what's been cool about that is seeing them do the same thing on their Instagrams or on their Facebook accounts. And I'm like, dude, God's word does not return empty-handed. You know what I'm saying? Like it's been cool. So that's one thing that I've really loved about that is it's done a lot more than just give us an extra thing to talk about. It's that section alone, I feel like has done a lot more just in my personal life. Than a lot of other things. So it's good. It's just one of my favorite things too.
It's almost like the encouragement section of our podcast.
Straight up.
You want to be encouraged. Hopefully it's encouraging.
Straight up. We're going to talk about the games we're playing. We're also going to preach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we got mini sermons each week.
That's what we do. Sermon James. You know what I'm saying? I think I named an episode that actually was Sermon James.
We did. We talked about sermon jams.
We did. That's right, because I played one of John Piper during the break time. I remember that. Oh, man. Memory lane, dude.
Check them out.
Memory lane.
Check them out. Sermon jams. You can find them on the internet.
So
it's
good
stuff.
I gotta try and find a way to make one of my pastors saying some stuff, because he's been saying stuff like all summer that's just been like Texas is hot, but when he preaches, that temperature goes up quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's so good, so good. Micah Hendrick, along with Michael Toller, said this is the next one. Said that the episode that we had our wives on, which they're not the only ones. There was a lot of other people that were liking those tweets and saying the same thing. Like, yeah, that episode was awesome. And I'm like, should me and Adam just retire and have our wives take over the show? What's been your favorite game?
I don't know. I think most recently, though, it's been fun watching you play the Mario Maker ones, like the hard levels.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, it's funny to like see your reactions and like hear you struggle with it. And I'm like, let me try it. And then like I'll either go a little bit further than you or I'm like completely
or finish
awful.
It. Yeah.
And so, I don't know. It's been fun to watch that because, I don't know, it makes me laugh.
It's fun to watch me freak out and be in pain. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's cool. So Hannah, what about you? What's your favorite game that you've kind of been a backseat gamer to what Adam's been playing?
Oh, I don't really know either. That's there's not a whole ton that I probably sit and actually like watch him play for, hours, but one that I remember like getting sucked into a little bit because the story was so good was God of War. I remember liking it just because the story was great. There's been some other ones he's played that I feel that way, but I can't really remember. There's a couple other ones that
she watched me play some of Edith Finch. It was like she gets interested in those.
Yeah.
She got sucked in a little bit to The Witness just because of the puzzle aspect, and she kind of liked that.
Yeah.
I like puzzle games, yeah, but there's a few that
She's
he kind of
definitely
played.
got a lot of games that she doesn't like that I play. Probably.
Yeah, I'm more excited for you to ask that question, Logan. No,
let's switch it over and do that. What's been your least favorite game that you've had to unfortunately witness Adam play?
well, I don't know the names of some of them, but
I'll have to give you the name.
yeah, I'll just give you the general genre of the game. But I can't stand any games he plays that are like anime. Like
basically, Kingdom Hearts is
Kingdom
probably
Hearts kind of drives me crazy.
Persona 5.
Well, Kingdom Hearts, I give him a hard time because I'm like, you're playing a Disney game. Like, it's a Disney character game. Like, it seems like only, 10-year-olds should be playing this. But, like, he's like, no, adult people play this. I'm like, I don't understand. It's a children's game. Like, why are you playing this? But then...
I'm just thinking, I can just imagine Hannah going in there like Adam playing these little baby games.
Yeah, there's like the last one you played had like Elsa and Frozen characters in it. And I was like, what is happening? What are you playing? I was so confused.
Like, let it go, Hannah. Let it go.
But yeah, there's some that you played like on your handheld that were anime ones that I really
She didn't like Persona 4 and 5. She was like, I can't believe you're playing again. Guys, I'm just saying, she doesn't like anime, so don't.
I don't.
But she didn't like
I don't
anime.
I don't like it's not even like the gameplay part. It's probably the cutscenes that drive me insane. Like the drama. It's like a soap opera. I always say it's like so over the top, ridiculous twists and turns and betrayals. And I'm like, this is just too much. I just can't get behind it. So, and he'd play those ones. Like
she
in bed,
didn't like Ni no Kuni. I played that for a while, and she's like, "You can't play this when I'm home." And I'm like,
"Oh, so that's pretty much it." There's other games that if they're like really rough or like a ton of language, that gets on my nerves a bit. Like if there's just like, I mean, not that you play a ton of those games, but there's been a few that have just like a ton of profanity, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't want you to play it around me because it just gets under my skin. But
Heavy Rain, she didn't like. Jason.
Oh yeah.
Jason. She's like, this game is the worst. I'm like, I know, I gotta.
I was like, why are you still playing?
And
Did you finish it?
No, it had some dark scenes in it too.
It was a weird game.
It's kind of dark.
Yeah, it seemed very purposeless. But you weren't very deep into it when you quit, probably. So that's probably why there wasn't much purpose yet. Oh well. Well, yeah, those are my list. I guess that wasn't one game that I can't stand, but it was a few.
Gotcha. Well, I'm a little nervous to hear what my wife thinks because my wife, I think she would be right there with you, Hannah, on the anime games because she hates Persona.
I hate Persona. But it's mostly because you have to get the platinum. Like, it would be one thing if you just played it once and you were done. Mm-hmm. But there's that one time you played it like 5 times. And I was just like, I hate this game. Like, give me my husband back. Like, who are you?
I remember that. That was a rough season for the podcast. Yeah, it was a dark age podcast.
Even Adam's like, yeah, I didn't really dig that game either.
I hated that game. I still, like, whenever you're like, ooh, this Persona dancing game's coming in, I'm like, no.
We always knew that if we could have got him on, it would have been a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But Camilla was willing. I love my wife, but it took some coercing to get her on the old podcast. But she crushed it. I tell her all the time. She crushed it. Camilla crushed it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to figure out another time, another way, make it special. We don't want them to get too accustomed because, again, everybody will start liking them way more than us.
Yeah, and then we'll be gone.
But we got to find those special moments. We found magic. We found that perfect recipe. We gotta go back to that dish every once in a while. So
yeah,
it was definitely that was a highlight for me. I loved getting to do that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I mean, with you and Camilla, but with Hannah also for sure.
Yeah, that was
bringing her in, doing that together.
It was definitely a lot of fun. I remember listening back to that for editing and stuff like that, and I was like, yeah, even I'll admit this is definitely one of our better episodes. And I think it was just cool to have
less of us is never a bad thing.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. But yeah, just having their perspective on there and just kind of hearing their thoughts about it. Because like I didn't think about this until, you know, we were doing the show. I'm like, I don't think I've ever really, like, I talked to my wife a lot about the podcast and stuff like that because it's like, it's literally a part of my life. But like the questions that we asked and stuff, like their favorite games and the most hated games and stuff like that. Like, I was like, I don't think I've ever really asked Camilla that. Like, I've heard her say things like Persona and dumb and stop playing kind of in the same sentence, but I think I tuned her out. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that was cool. That was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to do that one again. So yeah, dear listeners, just saying, keep listening, subscribe, hit all that fun stuff. If you want to support us on Patreon, you'll get the episode early, so you can do that too. Just saying. Patreon.com/reformgamers. Micah also said being able to hop on the mic with us.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the Reformed Gamers, episode 134. I am your host, Adam Sutherland.
And I am his co-host, Micah Hendrick.
As you can hear, I am not Logan. Our dear leader, the buck of the crew, is not able to be with us today. Something came up last minute, and so Mike and I were already planning on recording, and Logan trusted us enough to take the reins. As you know, Micah Hendricks has been a longtime supporter and fanboy of all things video games with us, and so he's been on the show multiple times. So no real need to introduce him. Just know that we are big fans of Micah here on the podcast, so we're definitely happy to have him joining me today.
It might be a bad idea leaving the two of us in charge, but we'll see how it goes.
That's true. Logan's usually, I'm the idea guy. Logan is usually the skeleton behind. He kind of makes everything go forward, and I'm like, hey, these are some ideas I have. And so without the structure, this could be a dumpster fire, or it could be just me and Micah having a good time talking about what we like. Who knows?
We're going to go way off the rails. It's going to be awesome.
Hour to hour and 15 minutes. We'll see how long it goes. Or it could be 25 minutes because we don't have as much to say as we might think.
Micah's been, I feel like Micah at this point is kind of like our third chair at this point, because there was a period he was on a lot.
We've had our seasons of third chairs. Eric Bryant was a third chair for a while. Jonathan Steele, Micah. I mean, again, it's fun getting to do it with others.
Yeah.
Especially when we've been able to have the patrons on for different interviews. Mm-hmm. I think of like our first one, I think was with Richard Marroquin.
Yeah.
And so those are those are always the fun little things that we've got to do. Again, it's about people.
Yeah, man.
And the more we get to interact, I mean, getting to do a couple meetups with different people here and there. I remember when Drew Hood came to one of my sessions at Cedarville, and I got to meet and just talk with him again. It's all about getting to do it with people and talk. And yeah, video games have been the avenue that connected a lot of us, but it's about way more than that. Yeah. So
for sure, man,
it's good. And Micah's become a bro. Like,
he's a VR
again.
Bro.
Last night
he's a VR bro.
Yeah, he's a VR bro. We're getting on, chatting, talking football, talking family stuff. Like, if I don't get to meet him on Earth, I'm excited to get to meet him in heaven. Absolutely. And get to hang out in real life.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Mike is a cool dude. We've had some cool guests on. Nate McKeever mentioned being on the show too. He really enjoyed those. And man, that's one of my favorite things, especially about this year, is that it feels like we've gotten into this thing where we've started networking and collabing with a lot of other podcasters and just people in general. Like, we've had Melvin on from Cinematic Doctrine. We had Wesley Ray on from Henshin Dad. We had Josh Broccolo on one episode. Actually, I think 2 episodes, because we did Dark Souls together, and then we did worship music, and then Nate was on for Backlogs. Like, Zach was on for PCMR. Sorry, trigger warning. It's a throwback to a really old thing in the group. But yeah, man. But like, even just this year, like getting to meet some of the other podcasters, like the dudes from Retro Rewind, Infinity Bros. Not like meeting in person, but connecting with them and doing all that. Guys from, Nintendo Nostalgia Podcast? I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Splash Damage Bros, SBF VGS Podcast. We've known them for a while. Man, Everyday Gamers. Dude, it's been cool, the people we've just gotten to meet and sometimes interact with and bring on the show. It's just been, that's been rad. That's been rad. So, man, Good stuff. Good stuff. Christian Moore, man, his was when Logan fumbles over his words, which is basically every episode for the past 150 episodes. I'm pretty sure I messed it up at one point here. So I don't know what Skinner's doing to do some fancy editing thing for this to give us that, but we'll see how it goes.
Greetings, dear listeners. Skinner here with Dear Ear Protective Services, Episode 3. This week, I am protecting your phone's storage capacity and your sanity. After much research, it was found that this episode would likely have stretched on for well over 10 hours, even if we only included the times "words are hard" was said. As such, it was concluded that we would just play it once and appropriately use the instance it occurred in this very episode. We here at Dear Ear Productions only have your best interests at heart. So without further ado,
words are hard.
And you keep getting good guests on, and then we talk less, so there's less chances.
That's what we need to do. That's the trick. We just bring on other guests, and I don't have to talk. That's it. You cracked the code.
That's the key to all these other guests was usually me being gone for some reason.
What we should do, you know that episode of The Office?
So maybe I need to be gone more.
You know that episode of The Office where Jim and Pam's Asian actor friend comes in and pretends that he's Jim? We should do that and see if people notice if we're gone. We'll just have two other people come on randomly.
If you ever say, "Do you know that episode of The Office?" It's always going to be yes, Logan.
That's right. That's a dumb question.
I know.
I mainly say it for the listeners at this point. I don't know why I say it for you, because me and you both are huge Office fans. That's something that I think we've quoted a lot on this show. But yeah, so there's that. That's always fun to remember how often I've messed up words. I tweeted this out earlier today, actually, because there was a hashtag floating around saying everything was fine until something happened. And then I tweeted out everything was fine until Logan started talking or something like that. And I said, hashtag words are hard. I was like, I can make fun of myself. It was good. But yeah, those are fun times. I remember that too. I think I got an award for that on Everyday Gamers, actually. Like, words are hard award or something like that. Words are most difficult. I don't know. I'll have to ask Holy Headshot and see if he remembers. Eric Bryant says where we talk about food, which is, when was the last time that we talked about food? Now that I'm thinking about it.
We don't talk about food. We always talk about talking about food, but we don't ever talk actually about food. Man. It's kind of funny.
Well,
it's just kind of, it was one of those throw-ins.
Let's just ad-lib it real quick, man. Pies chicken sandwich with Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. Let's just get super relevant.
Man, everybody needs to chill out with the old Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A. I don't even have Popeyes where I live, I don't think, up here in New York. Or Chick-fil-A. The closest Chick-fil-A is like 2 hours away. It's rough. I went from, I'm going to need some support here in about a year. So I left Cedarville. Loved where I was at Cedarville. I love being up here in New York. So, it's a great place to be in, where you love where you're at, but you miss where you were. But they're putting a Chick-fil-A on campus next year.
Uh-oh.
And there was probably a good chance I was going to be getting some of that for free. Mm-hmm. So when that happens next year, y'all can be praying for me, because envy, bitterness, anger, they will be present. But yeah, so if you got someone who's going to college, I don't know how many colleges got Chick-fil-A right on campus, but somehow they figured it out at Cedarville. Man, big stuff happening.
Man, just saying, all of you listeners, like, I know there's still some of y'all listeners at Cedarville. Next time Adam comes through, hook my boy up. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, hey man,
hook me up.
Just saying. He might preach at you. Sauce. He might preach at you and use that Chick-fil-A sandwich as a sermon illustration, but
break on tongues is what I'm going to do.
Oh man, that's good. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm like, there ain't nothing better than Chick-fil-A sandwich. You can't outdo it. All these people, I'm convinced.
I'm sure the Popeyes is fine. I like some chicken, but I think why does everything gotta be a competition?
I know, right?
Can't we just like chicken?
I know. That being said, though, I did put a poll out on Twitter, and Chick-fil-A won by a landslide. So, just saying, you can't beat the Lord's chicken. You know what I'm saying? And all you people are like, oh, you can't get it on Sunday. You buy it on Saturday, you freeze it, and then you eat it on Sunday. It's not that hard, people. God gave us freezers for a reason. It was for Chick-fil-A sandwiches and chicken nuggets. I know how to do this because I've done it before in seminary. But yeah, I think it's crazy. I don't know, dear listeners. You can let us know what you think. Did you try the Popeyes chicken sandwich, Adam? Did you try? I didn't hear that part.
No, I don't. No. I don't even know where my nearest Popeyes is up here in New York. They're too healthy.
I don't either. I didn't bother. I was just like, I'm just going to go to Chick-fil-A and enjoy that goodness and just, man. Oh, dude, have you tried their mac and cheese?
Logan, I don't have a Chick-fil-A near me, man.
Wait,
Stop bringing it up.
I thought you said you did.
Like an hour and a half away from me, almost 2 hours.
It's worth the drive. Make it happen.
Through the mountains. It's worth the drive through the mountains to get to it. You gotta go through the Adirondacks.
See,
so that could
you
be
get
dope.
a great view of the mountains, and then you get a nice hot cup of mac and cheese, which is just, it's fancy. It's got the crusty stuff on the top with the little flakes. Like, it's so good. And you get a chicken sandwich, and you can just go back and see the mountains again. That sounds like a great road trip, man. I will fly up there and go with you. Until I just realize how expensive flights are. So maybe I won't. But if I'm ever up there, we'll go do it. We'll make it happen. We might even do a bonus episode or something through there. But yeah, man. My mouth is watering thinking about it. I shouldn't have brought it up. But yeah, food stuff. We'll probably talk. We should just, I don't know. Words are hard. Wesley Ray says Wesley, my wife's never going to listen to this episode now. He says whenever Persona 4 was mentioned.
You know, it feels like I don't have a lot to say for some reason, and I don't want to say too much about the game I'm going to talk about just because I know we're going to do more about it later. But before I get into that, still grinding out that old Persona 4 Golden. You know, I'm at a... Spoilers, if you haven't played it, spoilers, listen. You know, block this out for the next couple seconds.
You've been warned.
But I'm at the part where Nanako is getting taken into that television, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, man, stuff is about to get cray
as soon
cray
as
for
they
you.
showed like the Midnight Channel before they even announced, I'm like, oh no, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
Oh no, they did. You do not mess with Nanako. That's my girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's so pure.
She's so cute.
She just loves Junes.
Junes.
Junes. Like, don't mess with her. And then they did that, and so I'm about to go have to save her.
About to go crack some skulls.
Yet, but so I've been playing that, getting me all hype the other day.
You're in for dude. I'm just gonna tell you, this is where the proverbial crap hits the fan.
If they hurt her,
I'm just saying, keep playing.
Taken on this game.
Keep playing.
So I've been playing that. I'll keep you updated next week. I should be a little bit further. I'm inching slowly, step by step. I will finish this game, but that's where I'm at there.
Which was like, I feel like that was a string of several episodes. I know there was one episode where I soloed it and talked about Persona 4 Golden and the biblical parallels you can get in there. Pretty sure I wrote an article for it on the website too. Man, I was obsessed with that game for a while, wasn't I?
You know, you mentioned the solos. There hasn't been too many of them, but I did one solo at least, maybe two. Mm-hmm. You did a couple solos. Like, those are always unique episodes. They were. Those are the rare ones.
They are.
Those are rare.
I honestly don't like doing them. It feels weird to do a solo episode, you know, to not have, and I think it's kind of like what we talked about when you came back. Was it last episode? I think it was the last episode we were talking about, you know, you being back and stuff like that. And it's just how easy it is. But man, I don't do well with change. So those solo episodes were definitely something else for me, but they were fun too. If I got to talk about Persona 4, it's always a good time. Always a good time. Still my favorite platinum. I think it's my first platinum, to be honest. No, my first platinum was Lego Marvel Superheroes on my PS4. That's right. But yeah, Persona 4, dear listeners, that's a game I've talked about a lot. And if you still haven't played it, I mean, you can still play it if you want. I'm at a point, I've realized now that I'm at a point where, like, after playing Persona 5, I've kind of cooled off on the Persona hype. You know what I'm saying? But we all know I've got my...
It's worth it if you got a Vita. It's worth it if you got a Vita.
Yeah, it's worth it if you got a Vita. It's definitely a must-play on there. But we all know that I've got my flip-flops on, and once Persona 5 Royale comes out, I'm going to be talking about it for like 4 episodes. So I'm just...
Don't you dare buy Persona 5 Royale.
You can't stop me, Adam. I can do what I want.
Don't you dare.
I can do what I want.
It is so not worth it.
My wife will probably stop me from playing it because, guys, again, the wives episode, go listen to it. My wife hates Persona. She hates Persona so much. Oh, man. I will probably never, ever play that.
Anyway, so Logan, we'll stop talking about Persona. We got Wes Hebert talking about winning winning a game from one of our iTunes reviews. Remember when we used to give games away and then we Patreon basically was like, you guys kind of got to stop doing that.
Yeah, I remember that for a while. This was before Patreon. I tried to go back and look for like the tweet and stuff saying like, hey, you won, or his review and stuff, and I couldn't. My thing was my app was loading up weird, and I couldn't find it. But
it must be probably throwback. Is probably what it was.
Is that what it was? Was it a throwback?
Probably. It may be. I mean, I'm not saying throwback episode. I'm just saying that was probably so far back that who even knows what happened.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But those are always fun. I mean, it's fun giving away the games. I mean, again, it's just a little way that we can give back to how much we've been given.
Man, for sure. We did one recently on Twitter with Crash Team Racing, and that was...
You're right.
I underestimated the kind of response we were going to get for that. Because I was like, man, if I do a game that came out recently, it'll get plenty of responses. So I was like, we'll get probably like 50 retweets. We're a small podcast. Like, no one's going to... but no, that thing got retweeted like over 200 times. And I'm like, I can't keep track of anybody because Twitter only lets me see the last 100 people that retweeted it. So I tried my best to like go through and like, okay, here's the people here. I'll try to put all the names in here. And then there it is. But man, that thing blew up. That was how we got to 800 followers. And I was like, okay, next time we do this, we'll do something a little bit differently. But that's been the thing too with it, is just being able to give back to people, like, because I subscribe to the Humble Bundle thing and I'll throw out codes every now and then. But yeah, that's one thing I do like doing about the podcast. It's kind of being Santa Claus for a little bit. Like, hey guys, boom, code, enjoy the game, enjoy that, all that stuff. Yeah. I still don't remember what that review is. I'll try to find it. But yeah. Wes was a cool dude. I think he was doing it was a coffee and confessions, or confessions and coffee. He was doing a show for a while. I remember this, where he was doing something with that, and I got on there and read part of one of the confessionals. I can't remember which section I got, but man, that he was doing, his podcast was cool for a while. I hated to see it end, but I understand that just different things going on. But that was a cool thing. I remember that. That was a while ago though. I can't remember how long ago that was, but yeah, that was cool. Wes, if you're listening, man, bring that back. Let's talk about coffee. And if you're the wrong person I'm thinking of, start a podcast about where we talk about coffee and read the confessions.
We're hoping we remember right, because Logan may be talking about someone totally different.
I probably am talking about someone else, but
in classic TRG fashion.
This is how we roll. That's just how that's just how we roll. Wes, I'm just saying, man, there's a podcast idea. Let's make it happen. Oh man. David, all about the Benjamin. I tried. He said one of his favorite things is when we do shout outs. I feel like we do shout outs every episode, man. And we just like to shout out stuff that we think is cool, stuff that we think that people are doing cool. Like, for example, with Reverence and Awesomeness, where's your latest episode, dudes? I've been enjoying your show. Give it to me, man. Record something. Put it out there. By the way, thank you for the love on the Super Metroid series. I appreciate you guys. Like we just what we do. That's one of the things I've come to learn about podcasting, is that if you're just in it to just like promote yourself and lift yourself up, there it is. Words are hard. If you're there to just promote yourself and lift yourself up, you're doing it wrong, man. Like, you got to interact with other people. You've got to connect with other people, see how they're doing, encourage other people, man. And like, the rest will kind of take care of itself, man. If you just kind of focus on just putting out good content and just enjoying it and having fun and meeting other people and just enjoying that, everything else will fall into place. So, yeah. Good stuff. Almost started preaching there. I felt it happening about how we need the community, how we need a living. Yeah, it was gonna happen. But yeah, man. Adam, what kind of shout outs do you want? We're not in Recos just yet, but man, what kind of shout outs do you remember giving that were some of your favorites?
No, I mean, I just think that whenever we've been able to, it's not, I mean, yeah, other podcasts has been fun getting to do that and get to share some of the things. I mean, again, I think specifically in the early days, it was really even you, when you started off this podcast and like the Super Best Friends video game sleepover, we kind of started off about the same time. Kind of getting to, not even directly, but almost indirectly getting to hopefully encourage those guys, because we talked about them, I think, a lot in those early days, because it felt like we were both just trying to figure out what in the world we were doing. but just getting to it's really even through the Facebook group. It's like they overlap. Like, we know everyone that's in the group doesn't listen to the podcast per se,
and we pray for you guys.
When those two things, yeah, when those two things kind of, when they would connect, and it's like, you actually listen to the podcast. You're not just someone who's in the Facebook group. It was always fun getting to kind of bring that into the group, whether it's to a comment. I mean, I think of our old party chats that we used to call it, like every other podcast, getting to throw out questions and get their answers. And we want to, that's why we, again, even how we did this episode, we gave a couple of the things that we remember, but we wanted to let the listeners prompt us in bringing a lot of those memories out, because if they didn't have good memories, and most likely the podcast wouldn't still be around. But I think the biggest shout out I can give is just thank you. I mean, like I said, we're halfway to whatever goal God has for us, being 300 or even more, hopefully. But it's been, again, this could have been something that was just a little niche thing that, again, I've been tempted to just kind of say, all right, life's just got too busy.
Yeah.
Life's, this, but I remember the way people have encouraged us, and you, but even me in particular, with adoption stuff or baby stuff or family stuff or just checking in. That's the biggest shout out as I can give. Is the only reason we're still doing this isn't because I could play video games and not talk about it on a podcast. Yep. But the reason I do it on this podcast is because people have encouraged us that for whatever reason they like listening to us to some degree. Yep. So as long as the Lord will allow me, and as long as my wife will allow me, I want to keep doing it. But again, a part of that shout out is our listeners have been understanding. Yeah. We want to do this. That's been huge. But life hits, ministry hits, and if we've ever had to say, hey, we got to take a break, hey, we need a couple weeks off, hey, something didn't work out, no one has ever said, I can't believe you guys aren't doing something else. Like, you have a patron and you're not doing this or that, and like, that's upped it for us. We want to we want to be consistent because people have committed to us, so we want to be as committed as we can. But if we said, hey, we got to take a hiatus for a week or two or a month even, our listeners have always been like, dude, we get it. The podcast is great, but you guys and your ministry and your families mean more, and that's been huge.
That's definitely that's helped a lot in terms of like things like stress and all that, because it just makes doing this podcast a lot easier. There's definitely that tension there of like I we definitely want to stick to a schedule, but there's also that piece of knowing if we have to postpone or something, people are like, all right, cool. You're still going to be on Twitter and Facebook, right? It's like, yeah, that ain't going nowhere. And like, okay, cool. So, and I think that's been kind of the main thing about this show. We do the show and it's fun and we put out content and we do that. But I think it goes back to our community. It goes back to that interaction of just interacting with people and loving on people and just, that's kind of where it's at. I feel like over the years, TRG has become more than just a show now. It's a community, and it's wild to see, especially when people do things like go out and encourage each other or meet other people. Like the thing that is always cool for me is getting onto Twitter and posting a question of something and then seeing different listeners interact with each other, or being like, oh, you're kind of cool, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to follow you back. And then they just like, it's friends. Like, all because we just asked a stupid question about Chick-fil-A and Popeyes or something. It wasn't that one. It was a different one. But that's the biggest shout out I think we can give. That's the biggest shout out that I think we can give is to our community, the people that listen, the people that keep us going, whether you're a patron or not, it's huge, and without you guys, I don't think the show would have made it this many episodes. That being said, you can't slack off. Please help us get to 300. Definitely keep interacting, keep downloading, keep listening. Especially you, Grandma. You have at least 20 more episodes to download on your different devices. I'm kidding, my grandma. I don't think my grandma knows what a podcast is. But yeah, So there you go, dear listeners. Big shout out to you. I guess this is one big party chat. Bringing it back. Throw back, man. But yeah, man, good stuff. Well, Adam, what do you think, man? Where do you see TRG going in the next 150 episodes?
Man, I don't even want to think about it. I'm one episode, you can't eat elephant at once. It's only one bite at a time. So I'm only worrying about what's that next step in front of me, man.
Fair enough. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If you guys would have told me when we first started this show back in 2014? I don't know. Numbers are hard. Math is hard. If you guys would have told me, or like if you would have just given me a glimpse of what TRG is now back then, I would have been like, nuh-uh. No way. I just realized that's what I said in that Switch reaction thing a lot. Anyway, yeah, if you would have shown me that and just seen everything that our community would be doing and the people we would have been meeting and stuff, I would have been like, no, I don't see it happening. But dude, it's different looking back. And I think that's one of the cool things about this show is that, at least for me and you, we have a bit of a time capsule. We can go back and listen to different points of our lives and be like, whoa, this is when we started the adoption process. Whoa, this is what we were going through. This is what we were playing. Why was I playing Final Fantasy VIII again when I said I quit it the last episode? That makes no sense. It's cool. I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but all that to say, dear listeners, thank you guys so much for sticking with us, for riding with us, for playing games with us, for interacting with us, for encouraging us, supporting us in ways that we don't ask you to, but you just feel led to. And I'm getting sappy, so I'm going to stop. Again, dear listeners, thank you guys so much for this, and thank you for getting us to 150 episodes. It's been a fun ride that we can't wait to see what's up over the next bend and over the next couple of years. So we'll see how that goes. As always, if you didn't manage to get your memory or favorite episode in or anything like that, you can always hit us up on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can send it on the Facebook the page. If you're in the group, you can send it on the Facebook group. Trying to remember where else we're at. YouTube, you can put it in the comments there. I'm forgetting stuff, but just let's keep that rolling, man. It's a good time. Really glad we get to keep doing this show. Now, one of the favorite things that we get to do, Recos. Before we let you guys go, Adam, man, what are some things that the dear listeners should definitely check out?
So this was funny because I was, again, actually, I don't even think this was even recording. I opened up with this, but for any of you parents out there with kids, if your kids are small like Ren and you like, what do we watch on YouTube? Cocomelon. Check it out. It's all these kids songs, nursery rhymes. I was telling Logan, you're gonna come once the Lord blesses them with their child. He's going to be singing all these songs like Sorry, or Sorry, Excuse Me, or 5 Speckled Frogs Sitting on a Log. I've got them all down. I sing more. I used to sing a lot of hymns, but now I just sing kids' nursery rhymes thanks to Cocomelon. But Ren loves it, so I'd say check it out. If you got little kids that are looking for, hey, what's a new show we can watch? Bam, Cocomelon, check it out.
That's wild. I'm probably going to look some of that up just to see what it is, because you were saying that I'm sorry one before we were recording. I'm like, what is this? So I'm not knocking it because I just realized, have I talked about me starting the adoption process on this show?
I think so. I hope so.
Oh, man. Well, if I haven't, hey, dear listeners, that's something. Wow. I don't think I have yet. Man, I'm really bad at communicating stuff. Words are hard. Yeah, me and my wife, we started the adoption process. We're going through that, adoption through foster care. It's basically just adopting kids who are currently in the foster system. And so, if I brought this up, you guys just let me know. I really don't think I brought it up on the show though. But yeah, you guys can definitely be praying for that. So there's a Reco. I'll be praying for us for that journey, and pray for the child that we'll be adopting, or children, because we might get siblings, just be praying for them, and their situation, and just, continue praying. My wife's a rock star. I think she can handle this whole parenthood thing, but me, on the other hand, I fumble over words and I forget things all the time. I don't know how well I'm going to do. So I think just pray for me that God would equip me to be a good parent. But yeah, that's a Reco. I think I did forget that. Anyway, so there's my first Reco. Second Reco, I already said at the top of the show, Girlfriend Reviews. If you still haven't checked that out, that's one you need to be checking out. The other Reco is Dangerous Calling by Paul David Tripp. Even if you read like the first handful of chapters, it's worth the price of the admission. It gives you an insight into your pastor and kind of what they go through and how you can pray for them and support them. The last thing I'll leave you with is clean out your backlog, because you guys will see on Twitter, it'll be posting every Monday at 12, the games that are coming out that week. September's stacked. October's stacked. This whole fall season is stacked. I know you're going to want to play some games, so you got to clean out your backlog now. If you wasted all summer and you didn't do that because you were playing like Red Dead Redemption or Overwatch or something, that's fine. I get it. Play what you want, but clean out your backlog, because we're about to get hit hard with some games, and we're going to talk about them on the show, and we're going to tell y'all to keep your backlogs and finances in check. But I tell you what, you'll be able to enjoy games like Control or Link's Awakening a lot better if you don't have a backlog to be kind of sitting there staring you down. So clean it out. And honestly, guys, part of cleaning out your backlog is looking at the games that you bought like 2 years ago and you haven't played. Just cut them out. If you haven't played them by now, you probably won't. So just learn to let go and then play those other games that you really want to play. And just kind of take it from me. Just learn to spend money better. Learn to pick what you buy or pick what games you play a little bit better. That's something I'm still always learning. But yeah, just clean out your backlog. Get for it. And if you need some help with that, go listen to our friends over at the Backlog Breakdown. So yeah, there you go. Some recos. As always, dear listeners, if you want to interact with us, thank you for checking. Let me start up here. Thank you for checking out this episode. Thank you for riding the nostalgia train with us and all that jazz. If you'd like to interact with our show, if you would like to support our show financially, you can do so over at patreon.com/thereformedgamers. If you like what we do, you can support us over there. Pledges as low as $1 a month get you sweet perks like early uncut access to the show. So if you thought words were hard in the edited version, wait until you hear the unedited version. And you get those early as well, so you usually get them about 3 to 4 days early before anybody else, sometimes even a week early, depending on our recording schedule. So that you can do that there. You get a behind-the-scenes episode, depending on what tier you support at. You get access to our Patreon Discord and things like that, which is a fun, active Discord thing. We're always talking in there about something, whether it's the new Star Wars trailer or whatever that game was, the one where you're the president and you're in a mech. I forget what it's called. Yeah, so you can do all that there. But if you can't support us financially, we totally get it. What you can do is go over to iTunes or Google Play or whichever app you're using to listen to us and leave a rating and a review, because that helps out quite a bit in terms of algorithms. So you can do that way. There's 2 ways you can support the show. You can also go over to youtube.com/thereformedgamers. Check out all the fun content we got going up on over there, like me building a PC for the first time in a video game and playing Beat and Super Metroid for the first time. All that fun stuff is over there. You can check out our website, thereformedgamers.com, which Wesley Ray is going to be working on a series of articles leading up to the release of Pokemon. That's going to be fun if you love nostalgia. So you'll definitely want to be checking that out. But as always, you can follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can like our Facebook page. You can join the Facebook group. And I think that is everything. Episode 150 is a wrap. Dear listeners, thank you again for supporting us, for getting us here. And until next time, GG and amen.
GG and amen.
GG and amen, man.
GG and amen.
GG and amen.
GG and amen, bro.
Thank you for listening to The Reformed Gamers, the show all about biblical theology and gaming. The reason the show sounds so good inside your ears is because TRG is edited by David Skinner. You can find extra content on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thereformedgamers. The Reformed Gamers is entirely fan-supported over at patreon.com/thereformedgamers by our dear patrons. The following people are at the producer level or higher and will forever be thanked and mentioned here at the end of the show, as long as their pledge comes through each month. Those people are Alex Castellanos, David Matthews, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Luke Strain, the Jet Islander Podcast, and Wesley Ray. Thank you for your support over on patreon.com, keeping our controllers charged, and fueling my addictive habit of getting platinum trophies. Until next time, GG and amen.